hello, and welcome to our webinar today. This is our Banzai webinar on From High School to Higher Ed, 5 financial skills you need for college life. Just before we jump in, go ahead if you can't hear me, check your device audio settings. We do have everyone on mute. If you have questions, you could use the question box, or we do have the chat enabled for this webinar, and we would love to hear where you're from and what you teach. So go ahead and drop that in the chat. And if you have any questions as we're going, we've got Valerie that's going to be moderating the chat. I can answer any of your questions, and then also I'm happy to answer anything live that applies to everyone. I'm Natalie Hollingshead. I'm a curriculum writer here at Banzai, giving this presentation today, and really excited to be able to jump in as it's college prep month and cover some important things for your students to know. So as of November 2025, 30 states now require a personal finance course for high school graduation. As a financial literacy teacher, what are your essential graduation requirements for graduating seniors? If you have anything in mind, go ahead and drop that in the chat and we will share that with the group. This presentation is based on what we decided at Banzai are our 5 essential skills, and they are number 1, zero-based budgeting, number 2, distinguishing bad from good debt, skill number 3, paying yourself first, skill number 4, financial aid literacy, and skill number 5, credit score as a future investment. So skill number 1, we're just going to dive right in, and I've got ideas on how to teach this in the lesson plan, and you'll see the whole thing here. So we've got skill number 1, zero-based budgeting. So what do students need to know about zero-based budgeting? Here are a few questions that we want to answer in this lesson. What is a zero-based budget? Identifying needs versus wants, and eliminating expense leakage. So let's talk about these each for a moment. What is a zero-based budget? A zero-based budget is exactly what it sounds like. It's a budget where the income minus expenses equal 0. And that may sound like a no-brainer or like a regular budget, but what makes a zero-based budget different is that you have all the money accounted for, right? You give every dollar a job. Here at Banzai, one of our taglines is teach the value of a dollar. And in a zero-based budget, you make sure that every dollar is accounted for. There's no slush fund left at the end of the month or in your budget. You're giving every dollar a specific job. We're also going to be talking about identifying needs and wants, right? So it's important for college students to understand, especially new ones, what is an actual need, what is a want. I know my son just started college in the fall. That's been an adjustment for him to differentiate between what I need to do versus what I want to do. And then eliminating expense leakage. This is really important for everyone, but firstly, this is important for everyone, but also very important for someone who's managing their own budget for the first time. Identifying those little things that can add up over time and end up taking more money out of your budget than you planned. Now, this isn't to shame anyone, for instance, for having a fancy coffee. If that's what you want is a fancy coffee and you've budgeted for it, go for it. And the same applies for a college student. But it's also really important that they understand how little amounts can really add up over time. So here's a zero-based budgeting lesson plan. So this is about 30 minutes is what we've allotted, and the learning objective for this is that students will create a functional, personalized zero-based budget and learn to track expenses for 1 week to identify their top sources of leakage. And this hits a jumpstart standard in the planning and money management to develop a plan for saving and spending. Now, if you're new to teaching personal finance, you're not aware, Jumpstart is a national coalition that has established personal finance standards for the entire country, and it's a great place to start if you either don't have a state mandate, you don't have state directives on what to teach, or you have some general direction and you're looking for more specific help with that. So in this lesson, we're going to be doing an extended budget mock-up and analysis. So the class will work individually or in pairs using a budget calculator that's in the Banzai library inside the article, Making and Spending Money. And I'll show you that in just a second. So they're given a fixed income and a list of projected college expenses, and their goal is to adjust the variable expenses using the net zero rule until it's met, which is the income and the expenses equal 0, like we just talked about in a zero-based budget. So this is the budget calculator the students will be working with, and you find this, you log into your Banzai teacher account, and if you don't have one, totally free to set up, easy to get started, and you go to the high school personal finance course, go into the library, and then you find the making and spending money article. So I'll just show you that really quick. Here is our Banzai library, and this is in the student view. You'll have the students hit this high school personal finance, scroll down to the library, hit this article, Making and Spending Money, and you can either click right here or you can scroll down and find this budget calculator embedded and ready to use. So the student will put in their after-tax income, their net income, and then throw in their expenses. And they can add more expenses here. They can add yearly expenses here, or they can take things out, and they'll be working to find their budget. So back to the lesson itself. In the first iteration of this, the students cannot change the amounts in the income or the fixed expenses column. So you'll give them their part-time job income, a scholarship stipend to a total monthly income of $1,500, and then fixed expenses, their rent, their utility bill, their phone payment or plan, and then their total monthly income. Oops, sorry. And they'll distribute those into the budget calculator. And then what they need to do, so everyone will have the same income coming in. Then they need to assign their variable expenses to get the budget to reach exactly zero at the end. So they can use any value, but they're going to be able to, they need to be able to back that up when they're finished with the lesson as part of the analysis. So they've got groceries and food, and here we've included a high estimate. Oh boy, sorry. Don't know how I did that, guys. Wow, I really, really got carried away there. Um, and there's estimates here that you can use as a teacher, but you could take those off if you wanted to. And they need to allot all of those into the budget. And then after they're done, there's some questions for analysis, right? So they can calculate their initial deficit, starting with the high estimates. And then if they need to cut some income, some out of their budget, how much do you need to cut to reach zero? And then what are the two largest budget leaks they identified? And what were the hard choices you had to make to balance the budget? And then another question about your savings line must be greater than zero. If you had to cut your fun and entertainment budget to zero to meet your savings goal, explain why this is a good trade-off for the future. Okay, Mallory, any questions that have come in about that first skill or that first lesson plan? I'll go back for a minute.
Not yet, but yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat.
Yes, perfect. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll move on to skill number 2. This is distinguishing good debt versus bad debt. So what students need to know about this is investment versus consumption. So really the big picture way to teach this to students is good debt is an investment in yourself and your future. Bad debt is all about consumption, right? So investments in your future can be it could be a house, but for a student, it could be, a student loan, right? All like in moderation, right? As long as it fits with their earning potential. And we're actually going to go over that in just a few minutes. So helping them understand what's an investment and what's worth maybe going into debt for. And of course, that's subjective. And then what's just like consumption and consumerism and really should be avoided. Dangers of credit card misuse. Lots of students will be getting the first credit card or be hit up with credit card offers. It's very easy to get into really bad credit card debt. And then they spend the next, their first years of early adulthood or after graduation really trying to climb out of that. And that can be a whole situation. Repayment options for good versus bad debt. Understanding that student loans, for instance, which we'll go into as one of their skills, have better repayment options than, paying off a credit card. And then best practices for using credit. So the lesson plan here, students will accurately categorize different debt types, calculate the cost of minimum payments on high interest credit card, and then understand the pay in full rule. And this covers a credit and debt standard from Jumpstart. So this activity we're calling debt scenario case study in math. So you want to write the following on a board for the students to see. So what I talked about with that investment versus consumption. So good debt focuses on assets that appreciate or increase earning potential like a home or education. And bad debt is focused on assets that depreciate or are consumed, often with higher interest rates. And then you want to divide the class into small groups, and each one will receive a set of debt scenario cards, and you can sort them into good and bad debt. And I did see a question about where can we find these lesson plans. We are working on making them into formal lesson plans that we will put in our teacher toolkit, and I can show you where that is at the end of this presentation. But also, I believe we can send out the slides, and then you can screenshot or you can print off or do whatever you want in the meantime. So yes, dividing the class into small groups and getting these debt scenario cards. So here they are. Here's the card. And I mean, you could just even like cut these with scissors, strips as is, right? So we have the federal student loan, maxed out credit card, a car loan, a new car loan, a personal loan for vacation, a private student loan, mortgage, and then a payday loan. And the students will be going through sorting those into good and bad debt. And then you can have a discussion either as a class or in small groups and then have someone report to the class. So when they sort, be thinking about why did you place this card under good debt? So focus on return on investment, low interest, and asset value. Risk, why did you place it in bad debt? Some of those things you want to focus on is high interest, financing a consumable item, or predatory terms, right? Like a payday loan. And then which one of these bad debts is the most dangerous to your future and what's your plan to avoid it? So payday loan, obviously maxed out credit card, those are going to be things you want your students to avoid at all costs. So after the cards are sorted, the groups can focus their analysis exclusively on the bad debt cards using our credit card payoff calculator for these two main bad debt scenarios. So here's the scenario one for card number 2, which is the maxed out credit card. They'll put in this balance and then the interest rate, and then they can set the minimum payment. And then same for card number 4, we've got a balance, interest rate, and then setting their monthly payment. This is the credit card payoff calculator, also in that high school personal finance library in the credit card basics article this time. So again, you are here in our library. Let me go out one. And you've got credit card basics here at the top. And you can go to this credit card payoff calculator. We also have a credit card or minimum payment calculator that help them students understand how much they could save by paying a minimum payment that you can also use in a different form for this lesson as well. So credit card basics article, you find this credit card payoff calculator, and then you could have them input the numbers that they've run into this table below. And then here's some more discussion prompts for the class. So going through a good debt justification, talking about, okay, why is a mortgage, which is generally under good debt, why is it under good debt even though it has the highest total debt load, right? Like that's the biggest amount probably they'll borrow in their lifetime. Well, maybe not if you start a business or whatnot, but it's still a big debt load, right? And how is that still considered good debt? Talking about that data-driven comparison that you did with the calculator, which is the most expensive risk and why. I'm talking about predatory lending, and then making sure that you avoid getting into a trap with card 1 or card 2 by paying off more than the minimum or paying the balance off in full every month. Mallory, any questions on number 2 or just questions in general we need to address?
Hi, yeah, there was a question about sending out this recording to everyone. Will everyone have access to that and when they can expect that?
Oh, yes. So we will definitely send a link to the recording, and we will also post it on our professional development site in like within the week. And we'll send you a link when it is live, and then you can share it with whomever you'd like. Is that it, Mel?
Yeah, that's it for right now.
Okay, perfect. So skill number 3, paying yourself first. So what do students need to know about paying themselves first? What does it mean to pay yourself first? Simply exactly what it sounds, making sure that before you make any other payments that you transfer some money to your savings. Now, ideally, you have this automatic transfer, and we'll talk about that in the lesson. But that you have money that you're setting aside for a future goal, a rainy day fund or an emergency fund, paying off debt, whatnot, that you make some movement on the things that are important to you financially before you allocate everything to just like expenses or spending or fun. The impact of small amounts over time. So just like there was expense leakage that we talked about in the other lesson and that students will get to dive into, understanding that small amounts over time in the other way, in a positive way of setting aside that money from time to time regularly really does build up, right? And why emergency funds matter. So this lesson plan will have students commit to a specific measurable monthly savings goal and demonstrate the steps to automate that transfer to build an initial emergency fund. And this goes over a Jumpstart standard of saving and investing. 12.1, discuss how savings contributes to financial well-being. So this activity is we're going to call our Future Fund Automation Workshop, and it's split into 3 different parts. So in the first part, the students are going to calculate exactly how much they need to save monthly or weekly to hit a $1,000 emergency fund goal. Number 2 is an automation plan where students draft the practical steps for automating the transfer before they spend any money. And number 3 is money finding, where they're going to discuss strategies for freeing up cash to fund the plan. So goal setting, if we say the goal is that we're aiming for an emergency fund of $1,000 for a student, and like they get to say, number 2, they're setting the timeline. So how many months do they want to take to save to this goal? This is a recommendation, but you can give your students whatever recommendation you want, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And then they're going to figure out what's the monthly requirement for that amount. So that's your savings goal divided by the number of months. And that's the amount that they'll need to save every month or every paycheck, however you want to allot that. Well, actually every month. And then if you're paid twice a month, you'll divvy that out into how much you need to transfer on payday, right? So students can go through that and you can have them do that scenario any way they want that works for you. And then automation plan. So once students have their required transfer, which is D, point D from that previous page, they need to create an action plan to reinforce this pay yourself first principle, right? So they come up with the amount that they need to save, and now we really want them to develop a plan for actually doing it. So there's a few different things to focus on. So number 1 is lifestyle creep. So say the $100 a month you're saving is only $25 a week. What are 2 places in college life where you could reroute those $25 into savings? I know my son, for instance, is huge into going to movies. If you go to a movie and you buy a popcorn and a soda, that's $25, or at least close to, right? So um, cutting out that one activity or even just like maybe one movie a week can really save you money on that line item. So their students are going to brainstorm how they think they can cut back to save $25 a week. And it could be a ride share, it could be using public transportation, it could be doing like cool dates or activities at home, or doing free hobbies, or using what they have, or not shopping, or whatever they want to come up with, right? And then the second focus is going to be sharing a resource that offers a major student discount and thinking about how much they could save over the semester. So for instance, Amazon Prime has a big discount for college students, or switching to a Spotify plan that's a student one, or using local transit. Or I know when I was in college, they had a starving student card, and you could buy this card and then use it to get all sorts of savings at different places. So after that, you want to have a 5-minute group discussion on ways to fund the plan, right? So thinking about where the money will go. Are they going to put it into a separate bank account, which is a great thing to do? It's just easier when you have to do the additional step of like getting the money out of your main account. You don't have to worry about not spending it because it's not available. So maybe they want to do a high yield savings account, or maybe they want to do a separate bank account. As a side note, this generation of kids, a lot of them are sort of unbanked, meaning that a lot of them are operating out of Venmo or other things like that without really having a savings account or a checking account. And this is just a good opportunity to teach them the importance of having those accounts and the safety that comes with them, right? Like there's federal protections, either if you're at a credit union or at a bank, on your money that you don't have in Venmo. You could have a whole discussion that way, right? Number 2, when will the transfer occur? So it needs to be after your check deposits. It's good to have it on the same day. It's great if you could set it up automatically, right? Frequency, how often will they commit to doing it? And then why? What will this emergency fund prevent you from having to do? And it's great to have the students brainstorm what are different emergencies or scenarios that could maybe come up for them as a college student, that having a little bit of money set aside would really help. And maybe it could be something fun, right? A cool opportunity. You're only in college once. Say you get a chance to go on a study abroad program, but you have to put a deposit down. Hey, you have the money for that. Maybe they need to do an emergency flight home because there's a family situation, or maybe they break something in the dorm and they have to replace it, right? Like there's all sorts of different scenarios that could happen, and where they would be really handy to have some money on hand. Any questions so far? Oops, it is. I don't think so. I think we're good to go. As usual, if you have any questions, please go ahead and drop those in the chat. So skill number 4, FAFSA and financial aid literacy. So what do students need to know about FAFSA and the financial aid? So FAFSA is a gateway to free money for many students, grants and scholarships. To get really any kind of financial aid at a higher education level, you will need to do the FAFSA. And this is a high ROI activity. So this is a really high return on investments. If students take some time to complete the FAFSA, a lot of them are going to get far more out of it than they put into it. And here is our financial aid offer lesson plan. So in this, students will understand the difference between grants/scholarships or loans and apply a cost-benefit analysis to choose the most financially advantageous aid package. And this is covering Jumpstart Standard for under financial responsibility and decision making 12.2. And the 12 just means it's for high school, but Jumpstart has standards, spanning from K through 12. So our lesson is going to be an in-depth financial aid offer comparison, and students will work in pairs to analyze 2 simplified financial aid offer letters. So College A is a high sticker price, but has a generous grant or scholarship package. College B has a lower sticker price, but is reliant on unsubsidized loans. And students are going to use the net price formula to determine the best choice for them or for this hypothetical student. So the net price is the cost of attendance, the COA, minus any gift aid. So here are 2 these financial aid offer letters, and that you will distribute to the students, and remind them that work study is an opportunity to earn money, and it's not free money, and any loan must be repaid, right? So I actually have, I'll send out in the slides, I'll send out a version of this that has these key differences taken out in case you want to just distribute that directly to students. So they have to come to those conclusions yourself, but I'm including them here so you as a teacher know what you want to say. In fact, I can go back through and I'll maybe create duplicates of each slide. I just didn't want this to get too long. I'll create a duplicate that has the teacher answers on one and is blank for the students for anything that you might possibly photocopy and distribute for the students. So this has College A, the private university, where you go through the cost of attendance, the gift aid, any loans offered, work study, and then they have to calculate the net price. Same thing for College B, which is public state college. Obviously, the cost of attendance is a lot lower, but they do have a lot less gift money. They have more direct unsubsidized loans, and work study is the same. So they're going to complete these following steps, figuring out the net price, figuring out the borrowing cost, and then make the decision about which actually has the lowest true net price. And after calculating the best deal, which is College A has a net price of $25,000 and College B has a net price of $23,000, here's some questions for them to discuss. So they're going to be comparing and contrasting unsubsidized versus subsidized loans. So College A offered a subsidized loan while College B offered a high unsubsidized loan. Why might $2,000 not tell the whole story in this scenario, right? And you can have a discussion about the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans. You could even have the students research that if you wanted to create a separate lesson plan and have students present on the differences between those, including repayment plans. Long-term debt. If you chose College B, would you have to borrow you would have to borrow an additional $18,000 over 4 years. How much money would you have to borrow in total? And then for the action plan for the college you chose, what is your plan to cover the net price? So if they decided to go to that college, what would be their plan of attack? Skill number 5, this is our final skill, is our credit score as a future investment. So what students need to know about credit scores? Well, responsible credit in early adulthood can really set the stage for the rest of your adulthood, right? Getting into a bad spot with your credit can take a really long time to recover from. So it's really best if students start as they intend to continue. And if they understand that setting the stage in early adulthood really does set them up for success. Future impacts of credit history. It can impact your an apartment lease, obviously impact a home buying, getting a car. All sorts of different things can be impacted by their credit score. And then we're going to talk about debt versus income ratio via the salary rule. So the lesson plan will explain the components of a credit score, articulate its immediate impact on life events, and establish a realistic maximum debt ceiling based on their career field's expected starting salary. Jumpstart standard that we cover here is credit and debt. 12.2, explain the purpose of a credit record and identify borrower's credit report rights. So this activity is a credit score impact and debt limit planning. So students will execute 3 different tasks. They're going to read an article called What is a Credit Score? They're going to do an apartment application role play, and they're going to research career salaries to calculate their maximum safe student debt limit. So first article in the same spot as I showed you for the other ones, high school personal finance library, go into what is a credit score article and have the students read this article. So the article is going to cover all sorts of, different things. Did not like me pushing the back button. Where are you? What is a credit score? So this talks about what is a credit score, the ranges of credit scores, what makes up a credit score, checking your credit, hard versus soft inquiry, all things that students really need to know when they're dealing with their credit score for the first time and just ongoing. So here is an apartment application role play, and you could cut these into strips just like you are going to cut up the good and bad debt cards. So you have a character being an apartment manager, and then a graduate A and graduate B, and kind of going through this application role play. You could do this in small groups, you could do it in a big group. I mean, it's like a little silly, a little hokey, and then I think also like teenagers need that from time to time, right? So going through this role play. And then you're going to talk about debt limit planning. So introducing the salary rule for students. So students, did I skip a page? Nope, we did. We read the article, we did the role play. Now we're going to talk about the debt limit planning. So this idea is that your total student debt should be less than or equal to your first year salary, right? I think it's really easy for students to sort of overdo it on the student loans, and then not really realize until they graduate that the amount of debt that they put in their degree is not commensurate with what they're going to be making. And those two things can be really, really stressful, right? So, answering the first question, what's the major or career field that you intend to pursue? And then research the anticipated first year salary for that field in your target city or region. Now, here is a top secret spoiler alert. We are actually coming out with a really cool financial literacy fair in 2026, hopefully early 2026. And we're going to have a really cool tool in the Banzai interface that I just showed you that will help students do this automatically, where they can put in their career and the state that you're in, and it will pull actual data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics about what they can expect to make in that target city or region. But as a teacher right now, and maybe even then, you might want your students to go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, find those charts, and it's by state and by job category. I think there's 900 job listed, so they should be able to find that. Might take them a minute, but that's okay. And then put in that anticipated first year salary. So then according to the rule, your total student debt should be less than or equal to that number, right? So these B and C should equal. So then a housing reality check. If your monthly minimum rent payment is 30% of your starting salary, what's your maximum safe rent price? So just helping them understand what they're going to be working with after they graduate, right? So if the rent is 30% of their starting salary, here's how much they have left to work with. What will their student loan debt maybe look like? And, you know, are those two things compatible? So here's some synthesis and discussion questions. One is focusing on housing barrier. Your apartment manager ran a credit check. What specific component of credit score do you think was most damaged by missed payments? Future debt ratio, if you take out student loans that exceed your maximum debt limit, how will that impact your ability to qualify for a home mortgage 5 years after graduation? Talking about the amount owed being the second most important component of your FICO score. Why is graduating with your debt below the max debt limit so important for this component? And then future payoff. If you're responsible with your credit in college, what's the most valuable long-term asset that a good score helps you achieve faster? So those are the lesson plans. Do we have any questions coming in about any of those? Thoughts on additional skills to add, that sort of thing.
Not yet, but yeah, feel free to add any questions into the chat and I will send them Natalie's way or answer them myself.
Okay, perfect. So while we have just a minute here, I'm going to go ahead and show you in our Banzai library here. These were just lesson plans made on some of our different courses and things that we have to offer. But for instance, when you're talking about college and careers, we actually have a ton of interactive games, choose your own adventure style that kids can play to learn about college. So we have Cost of College, and everything has a pre-test and a post-test and a vocabulary practice. So you could use any of these games in conjunction with those lesson plans that we talked about. So Cost of College will help you calculate what a year at the school of your choice could cost. So you could have students play through the cost of college and then run through that lesson plan using their actual data from the college that they want to go to, right? We have paying for college where they'll make a plan to account for the cost of school. So you can have them run through this twice. Once with the hypothetical scenario of your choosing or from the lesson plan, and then a second time for themselves. So just getting them really familiar with all the different ways to pay for college. We have a course on college alternatives. So this shows for students who college is not the only option, going through things like a TEP boot camp or a trade school, different certificate courses, right? There's a lot of different paths that students take. Not everyone goes to college. College isn't a great fit or even a good solution for everyone, depending on their career goals. And there's no sense in overdoing it, especially if they have to take out student loans. Their time is valuable, really helping students figure out what the next path for them will be. And this even talks about just going straight into the workforce. And career field quiz. So this helps the student learn more about potential career fields. Maybe you want to run through that after you talk about the different options for college and how to pay for it, helping them understand maybe some things that they're interested in. We have soft skills, and then we also have scholarships, which helps them prepare an in-depth outline for a scholarship essay. Now, students maybe have already applied if they're early decision, or I know like think common application is maybe due January, February, so they still have time if they want to go through this course. And this could be extra credit, this could be additional, so they can run through that. So we also have a new college and careers workbook, which has different, they can download this, or if you are a sponsored teacher, you can request workbooks and I can show you where to do that. We also have different career worksheets, how to fill out a W-4. Why is filling out a W-4 so complicated? We're making it easy. Planning outside the box. So research prompts to help them develop a more specific career, and then career exploration worksheet. We have some post-secondary education worksheets here. Interviewing someone who went to college or is in the field you're interested in, filling out the FAFSA. We also have lots of resources on filling out the FAFSA, right? So you could go through this article on filling out the FAFSA and then do the lesson plan or vice versa. And then we have some soft skills here, things that will help them succeed in college that really translate no matter what you're doing in college or whatever their next step is, right? Time management, stress management and positivity, problem solving, leadership and teamwork, and building interpersonal communication skills. And then finally, here's some library articles for college and careers, understanding job benefits, the FAFSA, planning for college expenses, fixed versus variable, and health insurance benefits. We also have a library out here. If you click that, that will take you to a huge library that has all sorts of different articles for adults and for students, but you can utilize that as a resource as well. Back just really quick in this Banzai interface, I wanted to show you, we have high school personal finance. We've got life scenarios, which is one of our flagship games. Everyone loves this one. It's a great start if you're doing any sort of budgeting, have the students play through this budgeting life scenario games. Also great for substitutes, because it takes a little hot minute there, but it's really fun for the students. You can also play through this as a class and really analyze every single decision. And then we have advanced budgeting, retirement, the elephant in the room, stock market showdown, consumer smarts, and banking. And then again, so many, we have middle school and high school personal finance workbooks in here, credit and debt worksheets, owning a car, investing, retirement, all sorts of different things. And then all these articles here. So these are all things that you can use in conjunction with your any of these lesson plans.
Hey,
So I'm going
Natalie.
to show. Oh, yes.
Sorry, real quick. We've had a couple of people ask how they can find who their sponsor is and how they can connect with them. Would you mind showing that real quick?
Happy to. I'll do that right now. So right now, as I mentioned, this is how your students will see and interact with the game. And you can hit return to a teacher account at any time. So just so you know, what I was in is this preview all courses, and then you can see, oh, sorry guys, I went hit back too many times. So if you hit preview all courses, then you can go into the student interface that I just showed you. But this is your teacher toolkit. So if you hit right up here, my sponsor, it will show you who your sponsor is at your school, and you can reach out to them. Now, this is my Banzai kind of cheater account. Jaron is one of my coworkers. You don't want to email him for workbooks. He won't be able to help you. Actually, he will, but don't email him. So Jaron would be my sponsor. You should have an email address, a phone number, address for them. You can send your sponsor a thank you note. You can request a lesson. You can also hit up here on this navigation bar, you can hit workbooks. I haven't ordered any workbooks yet. I can order free workbooks through my sponsor. Now, if this doesn't appear for you or it says you don't have a sponsor, there will be an email address for you to reach out to support@banzai.org and see if we can set you up with a sponsor. Now, if you don't have a sponsor, I will show you in one moment where you can download those workbooks and print them yourself if you'd like. But if you do have workbooks that you want to request and are available to you, I highly recommend doing that. You can download the workbooks right here. So download the workbook, download the answer key, or you can hit order free workbooks and request up to 160 at a time. So if you want personal finance, you want college and careers, and if you're interested in a guest speaker at any of these options, you can go ahead and do that and click this order for free. And it'll ship for free within 3 days. It has a teacher's guide and then also aligns with those state curriculum standards. And here's that new college and career one. I see a question, are all online lessons free if we don't have a sponsor for the workbooks? Absolutely. Everything you see here is totally free. And you can even download, the workbooks as a PDF. Oh, this one's Spanish, English. Hopefully this will show. Here is what the workbook looks like. So you can download that and maybe do one page at a time, or you could download the entire thing as well. And then just showing you really quick while we're here, this teacher toolkit has various items also that you can get in here. So we've got game kickoff slides where you can see all those games that I showed you. We have slides that you can do to kick off and add to your lesson plan, enhance it for each game if they're going to play it, that just introduces them to the metrics and what the point of the game is. We've got different guides, we've got library articles, vocab, workbooks, worksheets, and different types of things that you can do there. And then if you're new to Banzai and you want help setting up your classes, creating a new class, that sort of thing, we do free guided walkthroughs with our teacher support staff. They are so happy to do that anytime or answer your questions. So let me see if there's any more questions in the chat. Any questions about this college and career lesson plan? Looks like people asking about the workbooks. Are there any other questions that I missed, Mallory?
I don't think so. I think you've hit most of everything. We'll probably be wrapping up here. So yeah, if you have any other questions, please get them in there now and we can get Natalie or myself to answer them.
Perfect. So this is just again a high-level look at some of these college and career resources, our high school personal finance resources. Of course, we also have resources for elementary and middle school, digital citizenship, entrepreneurship, all sorts of different things. And reminder that you have just earned free professional development credit for attending this webinar today. So you'll get a follow-up email with a link to a survey if you could answer a few questions and submit your name and your email address. You will have this beautiful certificate automatically show up in your email. If you want that walkthrough that I was talking through, feel free to use one of these QR codes. So the one on the left is to watch our Banzai Basics PD session. That's from our back to school boot camp that we do every year. That was from a few years ago, but it will walk you through how to set up a teacher account and set up classes on your own. Or you can also sign up for a free demo with our teacher support staff using that QR code on the right. And we would love to have you follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest. We do a lot of giveaways on Instagram and really love interacting with teachers over there. Thank you so much for attending. Please let us know if you have any feedback, and we look forward to having you join us again soon.